What was the big deal about Abraham? And what does it have to do with the smoker who couldn't quit smoking? Welcome back. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, where we share short, relatable ideas. And I'm so happy to have you join us as we journey through the Torah portion of this week. Let me ask you a question that you might never have thought about before. What was the big deal about Abraham? Our forefather Abraham, what was the big deal? We talk about how he was tested and he had faith in God. But hold on a second. Abraham was told by God himself what to do. Let's take the test of being told to leave his family, which we talk about in this week's Torah portion. God told him, I want you to leave your father's house, your place of birth. He knew exactly what to do. What's the big deal that he got up and did it? I'd like to think that if I had an epiphany and God appeared to me and spoke to me, okay, that's a little bit scary. But imagine for a second that it did. Of course, I'd listen. Wouldn't you? The truth is, I heard a crazy story that I think can help us understand this. There was a guy who was a smoker, and his doctor told him, listen, you gotta stop smoking, because if you don't stop smoking, you risk losing your legs. What do you think the guy did? He kept on smoking, and a few months later, his doctor was doing his rounds in the hospital, and who does he see? He sees that patient, and he's there having lost one leg, and he examines him, and he tells him, listen, if you don't stop smoking, you're going to lose your second leg. And the guy, what do you think he does? No, he does not manage to stop smoking, because a few months later, the doctor is doing his rounds in the hospital, and again, he meets him, and this time he has lost both legs. Now, you might think to yourself, oh my goodness, that's crazy. But I think we can all relate to it, that we know something is right. We know exactly what we need to do. I sometimes think about, the day when I held my newborn son, my oldest child, in my arms. And I thought to myself, I am just going to be the best mother ever to this child. I am never going to lose my patience. Never going to shout. Please don't ask me how that's doing. And yet, we know with certainty what we need to do, but we don't always follow through. And that's a unique human condition, that there is the breakdown between the knowledge of knowing that what we need to do and then actually doing it. Why? We talk about having faith. And in Hebrew, the word is emunah, and we often translate it as faith. But the truth is, it actually does not mean faith, because when we talk about emunah, we talk about Abraham, and the text says that he'emin Abraham b'Hashem, and Abraham, we translate it as believed in God or had faith in God. Now, if you look at it in context, what's happening there is that actually Abraham is having a conversation with God. So it doesn't make sense to say that Abraham is having a conversation with God and he believed in him. Of course he believed in him if he was talking to him. That's not what made Abraham unique and special. Yes, it was that he had emunah, but not emunah as we translate it as faith, because that's not the accurate translation. The accurate translation for emunah comes from the root ne'eman, which means to be faithful, to be loyal. Yes, Abraham had that knowledge. He spoke to God. He found out. He questioned until he came to a place where he knew that there was a God, and he knew what God wanted from him. But what made him a man of faithfulness is that then he had the courage, the strength, the determination to live his life exactly according to what that knowledge demanded from him. He knew there was a God, and he knew that what God wanted him to do. That wasn't his challenge. His challenge was then going and doing it. He knew what his point of departure was. But what he didn't know is he didn't know what the journey was going to be like, and he didn't know what the destination would look like either. God didn't tell him where he was going to. And in fact, he could not know what the destination would be like, because the destination was a greater version of himself. And it's the same for us. Very often, we have the clarity, we know deep down what we need to do. But our challenge is then doing it. It is then having that courage, that strength, that determination to follow that road and be faithful to what we know is the right thing to do. That is the story of the Jews. We are a people who are strong, courageous, determined, that once we have the knowledge, and how we get that knowledge is a topic for a whole nother discussion. Feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to talk more about that. But what makes us unique is once we have that knowledge, we have the capability to travel that road and have the courage to live according to what that knowledge is. Keep an eye out for the next episode, where I'm going to share with you a crazy story about a pit and a wild cat and how it relates to everything that we're talking about. Meanwhile, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a wonderful day, and please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you.